Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here again to unpack these really complex, often hidden stories, pulling out the details from the shadows of history.
It's good to be back.
Today we are jumping straight back into the lives of Joseph Romano and Dominic Morelli. You know them, the Coffin brothers. This is part 3 of their story.
Right, part 3. And we're picking it up right on August 20, 1953. A pretty specific date.
Yeah, and for those of you who've been following along, you'll remember where we left them. It was intense.
Intense is putting it mildly. Our last deep dive ended after they'd somehow survived Project Fantasy in Berlin. You know, the F-47 hallucinogen, the Marzahn massacre, just pure horror.
Cannibalistic soldiers.
Yeah, and then almost immediately after, they were thrown into Project Sandstone. Under the pyramids in Egypt, betrayal, ancient weirdness.
And that's where Joey Romano lost his left arm. Not injured, not damaged. Gone. A complete amputation.
A complete amputation, yeah. The kind of injury, the kind of trauma, physical and mental, that should end a career. Instantly.
Absolutely. For anyone else, that's it. Years of rehab, maybe never fully recovering. So the big question we left hanging was, how do they possibly come back from that? How does the agency even process operatives this damaged? How do you prepare them for more? Because what they'd already seen was, well, beyond comprehension.
It's almost unbelievable, isn't it? And it speaks volumes about the ruthlessness, maybe, or just the sheer desperation of the CIA at the time, and the incredible, almost sci-fi level of technology they had access to, even back then.
Right. So today we're digging into that, their recovery, which was unbelievably fast, these assignments that just defy logic, and then the return of something they thought was buried.
Yeah, a ghost from their past.
Yeah.
So get ready, because if you thought their story was wild before, it's about to get even stranger.
Okay, let's break down this recovery first. August 20th, 1953. That date again, it's less than a year after Egypt. Less than a year after a traumatic amputation. How are they field ready?
It's staggering. I mean, you're right. The physical recovery alone should take years. The psychological side, maybe never. But the CIA had an ace up its sleeve, or rather, a secret project. Project Alder Branch.
Alder Branch. We mentioned that briefly before, didn't we? After Berlin. The place in the Yukon.
Exactly. That clandestine experimental program up in Canada. It wasn't just standard rehab. They were deep into advanced regenerative therapies, experimental stuff, and crucially, neural prosthetics. Way ahead of its time.
So this wasn't just about healing, it was about rebuilding, maybe even upgrading.
You nailed it. Romano wasn't just patched up. The reports state he returned cleared for full field duty. He was, and this is the term they used, enhanced.
Enhanced. How? What did Alder Branch actually do for his missing arm? We're not talking about a standard hook or a cosmetic prosthetic here, are we?
Not even close. He was fitted with what the files call an advanced biomechanical left arm. Think about that term in 1953.
Biomechanical. Okay.
The specs were wild. Synthetic muscle fibers layered over a metallic carbon iron skeletal structure. And the control mechanism. A direct neural interface.
Wait, direct neural interface. Brain to machine. In 1953.
In 1953. It sounds like something out of science fiction.
Yeah.
Decades before its time. But Alder Branch was apparently operating on that bleeding edge. Romano was essentially a prototype, a cyborg, long before that word was common.
That's mind-blowing. So what could this arm do? Was it just a replacement, or did it give him advantages, made him more than human?
Oh, it was definitely an upgrade. It gave him enhanced grip strength, which is obviously useful. But the really interesting stuff, it had a subdermal data port.
Meaning he could jack directly into systems.
Yeah, access encrypted data without needing a terminal. Huge advantage. It also had a concealed shortwave burst transmitter built in for sending quick, untraceable signals.
Okay, very spy tech. Anything else, knowing the Coffin brothers?
Of course. There was also a concealed 5-inch utility blade housed within the forearm. Always ready for trouble.
Naturally. And how functional was it? Did it work like a real arm? Any issues?
The assessment claimed 98.7% functional equivalency to organic limb. Astonishing, if true. And the crucial part for the agency. No known rejection markers.
No known rejection markers. That phrasing always gives me pause. It implies there could be unknown ones, right? Long-term effects they just hadn't seen yet. He was basically a walking experiment.
That's a sharp point, absolutely. In 53, this is uncharted territory. They couldn't possibly know the long-term biological or psychological effects of wiring a machine directly into a human brain like that.
It was a gamble.
A massive gamble. But Romano was too valuable an asset, too effective an operative. The operational gain clearly outweighed the potential human cost, at least in the agency's eyes. They needed him back in the fight.
So Joey Romano comes back, literally rebuilt, arguably stronger. What about Dino Morelli? He went through hell in Egypt too. Blast trauma, infections. How was his recovery?
Morelli didn't get to the cybernetics, obviously, but his recovery was also deemed remarkable. The reports say he was fully recovered, physical conditioning, above standard field rating. His hand-to-hand skills were rated exceptional.
So physically, he was back to peak form, maybe even more dangerous.
Seems like it. If anything, the experience might have hardened him even further, honed that edge.
But psychologically, come on, after fantasy, after sandstone, after seeing your partner lose a limb, how could the reports possibly say they were just fine? What does stable even mean for guys like this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The reports use terms like stable, high readiness for Romano. For Morelli, focused, aggression under control.
Aggression under control.
Yeah, and there's a specific note mentioning Morelli's bond with Romano being operationally inseparable. Look, for the agency, stable likely didn't mean healthy in our sense. It meant predictable, functional.
They needed weapons, not well-adjusted people.
Pretty much. Were they compartmentalizing, deep in denial? Had they been somehow conditioned to endure this? We don't know. But the assessment wasn't about their well-being. It was about their readiness for the next mission. It's dehumanizing, but that was the reality.
A brutal reality. Okay, so they're patched up, stabilized, enhanced in Joey's case. Where do you send operatives like this next? Somewhere quiet.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? Maybe a desk job or at least somewhere low-key. Nope. Immediately after these assessments, August 20, 1953, they're dispatched to Greenland.
Greenland. From the Egyptian desert to the Greenland ice shelf. Talk about a change of scenery.
And a change of nightmare.
Yeah.
They were sent to U.S. research outpost Theta 7. And this wasn't just some weather station. This was the site of Project Unicorn.
Project Unicorn? What was that? Sounds whimsical.
Anything but. Started in 1951, it was a covert terraforming and climate modification experiment. The official goal.
Yeah.
Creating artificial temperate zones in places like the Arctic.
Terraforming. In Greenland. In 1951. That sounds impossibly ambitious, even for the CIA, like something out of a pulp magazine.
Exactly. The tech involved must have been extraordinary, or extraordinarily reckless. But whatever they were doing, it went catastrophically wrong.
How wrong? What happened at Theta 7?
On July 29, 1953, about 3 weeks before the brothers were sent, Theta 7 triggered a Level 5 experimental breach alert. That's bad. Really bad.
Level 5, okay.
The very last broadcast from the outpost was fragmentary chilling. It mentioned distorted speech patterns, then just screaming, and these terrifying references to shapes moving under the ice and living storms.
Living storms, shapes under the ice. Oh, this sounds bad.
The assailants, all 14 personnel, presumed missing or dead. The only thing coming out of Theta 7 was its automated system, broadcasting a repeating corrupted code sequence, an electronic ghost signal.
So the Coffin brothers are basically being sent into a horror movie setup, a remote Arctic base, a mysterious disaster, strange signals. What was their actual mission?
It was multifaceted and incredibly dangerous. Step 1. Infiltrate via halo drop. High altitude, jump onto the ice shelf.
Risky start.
Very. Then assess the damage inside Theta 7. Recover all data logs, especially anything related to the terraforming tech. Locate survivors, though hopes weren't high. Identify the anomaly, whatever caused the breach. And crucially, neutralize the threat if containment had failed.
Neutralize? How? What if they couldn't?
If containment failed, and they couldn't secure the classified hardware, they had final authorization. Initiate black snow.
Black snow?
A sterilization protocol. Basically deploy a thermite package and incinerate the entire outpost. Leave nothing behind.
Scorched earth. Or scorched ice, I guess.
Pretty much. And Director M. Wells herself added a note to their directive. She called Project Unicorn unstable, unproven, and operating beyond its intended parameters. She even mentioned an internal debate about whether they'd broken natural laws or disturbed something deeper beneath the ice.
Something deeper beneath the ice. That phrase again, it really sets a tone, doesn't it?
It does. And Wells's note ended by saying the Coffin brothers were literally the only unit cleared for this, the only ones they trusted to go in and potentially come back. Or, failing that, to make sure nothing else did.
Okay, so they halo in. High-risk entry onto the ice. They make it inside Thea 7. What do they find? Immediate chaos, or something worse.
The initial reports described an eerie quiet, just that corrupted code echoing, but the air inside was wrong. Thick, humid fog despite the Arctic cold outside. Visibility near zero. It felt heavy. Alive, almost.
Not a good sign.
Definitely not. It took them about 2 weeks of careful probing navigating this compromised environment. Then on September 6th, Romano sent his first major field report. confirmation. Theta 7 was compromised beyond salvage. The main lab structure was ruptured, blown open from the inside.
And the 14 personnel from the final broadcast, what happened to them? They mentioned 100 staff earlier.
Right. The total staff was around 100 scientists, engineers, security. They found them, all confirmed dead. And the scene Romano described, it's stomach-churning. He reported bodies rooted into walls, ceilings, and lab floors, like they'd become part of the structure. Thick, fibrous growths erupting from eye sockets, mouth, and spinal columns.
Oh my God. Rooted, like plants.
Worse. He noted that in several bodies, vascular plant material had seemingly replaced circulatory systems. It wasn't just decay, it was assimilation. A grotesque fusion of human and something else.
I don't even have words. What was it? What did Project Unicorn create or unleash?
The entity was designated Ruth, Radio Unification Terraforming Hybrid. It started as Sample X77, a gene fusion project.
Gene fusion? Combining what?
Fungal mycelium think mushroom networks with accelerated vine species like superkudzu and human neural stem cells.
Human neural stem cells? Why?
The insane goal was to create a living terraforming organism, something intelligent enough to manage the terraforming process, adaptable, fast-growing. But the report adds, chillingly, what emerged is something else.
Something else? Yeah, no kidding. So Ruth, what did it look like? How did it behave? Is it just a big, weird plant?
Far from it. It was described as a mycovine hybrid. Picture aggressive vines mixed with a spreading fungal network, but fused with human neural tissue. It had complex limbs. An exponential growth rate could cover surfaces in hours.
Exponential growth.
And the terrifying part, its cognition. Estimated equivalent to a 13-year-old human. It showed curiosity, mimicry, and language learning ability. It had clear self-awareness and obsessive compulsion to expand its territory.
Wait, sentient, a 13-year-old's intelligence. That's not just an outbreak. That's an intelligent, invasive life form?
Exactly. It wasn't just spreading, it was thinking and learning, and it left messages.
Messages, like the corrupted code.
No, physically etched into walls inside the deeper parts of the facility. The same phrase over and over. I am still growing. I am not done.
Okay, that is pure nightmare fuel. So the entire base was Ruth's territory now.
The whole subterranean facility had become this alien, jungle-like biome. Super dense humidity, fungal fog everywhere, strange bioluminescent roots pulsing in the dark. Visibility was terrible, maybe just a few feet. Audio contact was disrupted by organic interference. The sounds of it growing, moving. Yeah, Romano reported detecting movement.
Yeah.
Quiet, coordinated, not random. Implying Ruth wasn't just a static growth, it was active. Maybe even creating mobile forms, or its main body was shifting, exploring.
Understandably, Romano asked for backup. What kind of gear do you even request against something like this?
His request list tells the story. High-yield flamethrowers make sense against plant matter. Portable atmosphere filtration units just to breathe the air. EMP-grade pulse grenades.
EMPs. Why? Does Ruth have tech components?
That's the implication. Maybe interacting with the station systems or its biology had some kind of bioelectric field. He also asked for another field team, biohazard specialists, and comms blackout authorization.
And his final thought in that report.
It summed up the horror perfectly. Whatever this thing is, it thinks, it adapts, it grows. We're not just walking through a lab anymore, we're walking through its body. And it knows we're here.
Walking through its body. Ugh. Okay, so reinforcements arrive. Did things get better?
Things got much, much worse. By October 7th, 6 weeks in, Romano reported they had severely underestimated Ruth. Dermal scans were terrifying.
How so?
Ruth hadn't just filled the base. It had extended its biomass at least 5 miles beneath the ice shelf. It created a massive, self-sustaining underground biome.
5 miles! Under the ice, that's colossal.
It essentially built its own ecosystem down there. The tunnels were described as arched, vascular networks, biological hallways, pulsing with sap and heat. It generated its own energy, its own heat, like a massive living underground furnace.
And it was still growing.
Worse. Secondary growths were detected moving towards an eastern fault line. Romano's assessment. It was preparing for surface colonization. Ruth was about to break out.
Okay, this is existential threat level now. Did the reinforcements help at all? You mentioned more agents arrived.
They arrived September 10th. But on September 16th, disaster struck. A seismic event, probably Ruth shifting its mass, caused a tunnel collapse. 5 more agents were killed. Gone.
Oh, no.
So now Romano and Morelli are even more isolated. Low on people, low on oxygen, low on ammo, facing an exponentially growing, continent-threatening entity.
And the voices, the mimicking, was that still happening?
Yes. Ruth started emitting low-frequency pulses, maybe sonar, maybe communication. But the psychological warfare continued. Romano reported, "We're hearing whispers in tunnels. Sometimes it mimics voices from the lost agents."
That's just cruel, deliberate psychological torture from this plant, fungus, human thing.
Purely designed to break them. So, trapped, running out of time, facing this monstrous intelligence, they needed a new plan, a desperate one.
What could they possibly do against something 5 miles wide under the ice?
Operation Rootfall. The idea was to induce a complete cave-in of Ruth's central core.
Bring the roof down on it.
Essentially. Infiltrate the core root nexus, the heart of the organism, where the heat and energy signatures were strongest. Planned a ring of synchronized, high-yield seismic charges. At least 6 of them.
Seismic charges? Like earthquake generators?
Powerful enough to collapse the massive ice strata above the core chamber, crush the central biomass, sever its connections to the expanding network. Joey's arm, the biomechanical one, had the remote uplink to trigger the detonation during their escape.
High risk, I assume. Planting bombs in the heart of a sentient monster that can feel vibrations.
Extremely high risk. Romano knew Ruth's root nervous system might detect them, trigger defenses, collapse tunnels on them, but it was their only shot. His request to Langley was urgent. Authorize rootfall, airdrop C4, thermite, pulse grenades, antifungal agents.
And something else, right? Something drastic.
Yeah. He requested the option for nuclear fallback be kept ready at Langley's discretion.
Nuclear. They were actually considering nuking Greenland to stop this thing.
That's how serious the threat was perceived.
Although.
Existential. So, did Director Wells approve this insane plan?
She must have, given the fake.
Instantly. October 8th, 1953. Full green light for Operation Rootfall. Ruth was reclassified. Level 1 existential biohazard.
Level 1 existential. What does that classification actually mean in terms of rules of engagement?
It means no rules. All conventional parameters, environmental concerns, collateral damage, local stability were nullified. This classification basically said, stop this thing by any means necessary. It authorized full-scale explosive measures, lethal force without restriction, unconventional weaponry. The directive explicitly warned, failure to contain this outbreak could result in continental ecological collapse.
Continental collapse. Okay, so total war footing against a biological entity. What about extraction for Romano and Morelli?
If Rootfall worked, they transmit code Ruth Ash via uplink Ice Delta 77. Extraction team Phantom 9 picks them up. Simple enough.
But if it didn't work, or if they didn't make it out?
Grim contingency. If no contact within 48 hours of the planned detonation time, assume protocol blackout. Sterilization from orbit. An atmospheric napalm sweep of the entire region. No loose ends. Nothing gets out.
Burn it all from space. Wow. And Wells' final message to Joey.
Personal, heavy, this is your kill, Joey, finish it. Putting the weight of the world, or at least a continent, on his newly cybernetic shoulders.
So the plan is set. The stakes are absolute. Did Rootfall happen? Did they stop Ruth? Or did protocol blackout get triggered?
The direct report from the brothers is classified or missing on the immediate aftermath, but we have external corroboration. 3 days after the Rootfall authorization, October 11, 1953, the International Geophysical Union registers something big.
Big how? An earthquake.
An unprecedented seismic activity in the Greenland Sea, magnitude 7.3 equivalent. And here's the kicker, the timing. 02.44 GMP, October 8th. Almost perfectly aligned with the Rootfall directive timeline.
7.3 in an area with no known fault lines? That's highly suspicious.
Extremely. Seismographs picked up a deep, resonant harmonic tremor and a brief but intense vertical displacement of the seafloor. It looked like a sudden geological collapse or massive underground chamber implosion.
Like something huge collapsing inwards, like, say, dropping an ice mountain onto a 5-mile-wide biome.
Precisely. Officially, it remains unexplained. But some seismologists noted the peculiar waveform shape, a sharp vertical onset, then uniform decay. Not typical for earthquakes.
More like an explosion.
Exactly. The anthropogenic detonation hypothesis was floated. Human-caused. The signature looked like a massive contained underground blast. No nation claimed it. Satellite requests were stonewalled. But for us, connecting the dots, it strongly implies Rootfall was executed. Successfully.
They did it. They stopped Ruth at the cost of causing a 7.3 seismic event. Incredible.
An almost unthinkable scale of operation. Averted an apocalypse, maybe. So they survived Greenland, survived Ruth. Joey has his new arm tested under the most extreme conditions imaginable. What next? Surely now they get a break.
You'd think? A quiet assignment, maybe therapy? Nope. Less than a year later, maybe 7 or 8 months after Greenland, they pop up again. Completely different environment.
Where this time? Not another ice cap, I hope.
Tropical heat, revolutionary fervor, Cuba.
Cuba, wow. From Arctic biohorror fighting a sentient plant monster to meeting with revolutionaries in the jungle. How does that even compute? The mental whiplash must have been insane.
It's staggering, isn't it? It shows their versatility, or maybe just how expendable and reusable the agency saw them. They weren't just monster hunters, they were political tools, too.
So Cuba, when exactly, and what were they doing?
October 15th, 1954, we have a field report from Romano. It reveals they'd already been embedded for 5 months, since around May 1954.
5 months undercover in Cuba. What was their mission? And their cover?
Their cover, American journalists and tactical medics. Pretty clever, allows access, explains certain skills. Their mission, assist Fidel Castro's Movimiento 26 at Julio, the 26th of July movement, assisting Castro. So the U.S. was actively helping Castro's revolution at this point, against Batista.
Covertly, yes. Laying groundwork, providing expertise. They ran a revolutionary conditioning program deep in the Sierra Maestra Mountains.
Conditioning program? What did that involve? Teaching them journalism?
Hardly. They were upgrading firearm proficiency M1 carbines, captured Soviet SKS rifles, teaching advanced ambush and displacement tactics, hit and run, guerrilla warfare 101, but taught by elite black ops agents.
Okay, that's serious training. What about the medic part of their cover?
Morelli was training guerrilla medics, not just basic first aid. We're talking wound packing under fire, jungle amputations with limited supplies, fever triage for malaria, dengue, turning these, as Romano called them, idealistic but green fighters into a capable guerrilla skeleton force.
They were essentially building Castro's army from the ground up, making them effective.
And boosting morale, turning locals against Batista. They were instrumental in hardening that early revolutionary core.
Romano's report also assessed Castro himself, right? What was his take on the man back then, before he became the Fidel Castro we know?
It's fascinatingly prescient. He called Castro charismatic to the bone. Noted his lawyer's way of speaking mixed with a soldier's gut instincts. Unrelentingly idealistic, Romano wrote, but not yet burdened by ideology.
Not yet burdened by ideology. That's telling.
Very. He saw Castro was uncomfortable with outside control, meaning U.S. influence, and fiercely intelligent, but also noted he was prone to rewriting them ideas plans in his own image.
A strong personality, potentially difficult to manage.
Exactly. Romano's conclusion was stark. Castro was dangerous. Like a fire in a forest is dangerous, cleansing to some, catastrophic to others. Chillingly accurate looking back.
Did Romano raise any red flags about the direction things were heading, even as they were helping?
He did. He noted the growing influence of Fidel's brother, Raul, and particularly Che Guevara.
Che, the Argentine doctor.
Right. Romano saw Guevara as more fanatical, driven by something deeper and darker than just Cuban nationalism. He sensed a growing mistrust of U.S. motives from Castro's inner circle.
He saw the potential for a break, even then.
Yeah. He explicitly warned Langley that if the revolution succeeded, they might be building a regime that does not serve U.S. long-term interests. He could see the potential for ideological divergence down the road.
So what did he recommend? Keep helping, pull back.
His recommendation was pragmatic. Maintain short-term support to achieve the immediate goal destabilizing Batista. But crucially, start developing contingency plans for if or when Fidel breaks from alignment. He even suggested thinking about future asset placement within Castro's inner circle.
Asset placement, meaning spies, or agents of influence.
It could be either. For influence, or, if necessary, destabilization later on. At that moment, though, October 15th, Romano reported both he and Morelli were fully operational, morale high, no detection. Situation nominal.
Situation nominal. With the Coffin brothers, that usually means something's about to go horribly wrong.
You know their track record. Less than a week after that report, October 2010, 1954. An urgent transmission, this time from Morelli.
What happened?
Joseph Joey Romano. Officially, MIA suspected captured.
Captured? Oh no, how? When?
Last contact was October 20th, during a supply run. Joey sent the success signal, Haven lit, then went silent. Missed his next check-in ping. Dino went to investigate.
What did he find? Signs of a fight?
Nothing. No struggle. Which was weird. But he found something else. A boot print.
Not Cuban army.
Definitely not. Matched an Eastern Bloc military pattern. Soviet issue.
Soviets? In Cuba? Working against Castro's guys? Or maybe working with Batista's guys?
That's what the other intel suggested. Rebel scouts reported seeing 2 unmarked jeeps, old Soviet GAZ-67 types, heading east towards the coast. And they were escorted by known Batista militia, but flying no flag. very clandestine.
A strange alliance. Soviets and Batista's forces.
And locals started talking. Whispers about foreigners who speak soft Russian, moving supplies, asking questions about the rebels. Dino put the pieces together fast.
What was his conclusion?
This is no random snatch. These aren't Cuban forces. I'm certain we're looking at a Soviet wet team embedded with Batista's military under complete blackout. And the most chilling part, Joey's taken because they knew who he was.
They knew him, which means they likely knew about the arm.
Exactly. Dino realized the danger immediately. Joey's neural arm interface, even encrypted, was a treasure trove of classified information. If the Soviets could crack it.
The implications would be catastrophic. Details on Alderbranch, maybe even Ruth, Fantasy, everything.
Everything. Far beyond just Cuba. The Soviets weren't just grabbing an agent. They were trying to capture incredibly advanced, incredibly sensitive U.S. Black Project technology and intelligence, literally embodied in Romano.
Okay, so Dino knows Joey's taken, knows it's Soviets, knows the stakes. What does he do? What's his message back to Langley?
Sure, Dino. Immediate action. Activated rebel scouts, laid traps, burned their current cover, vanished into the jungle. No signal from Joey's emergency transmitter, but Dino's resolve was absolute. I'll keep moving. Keep hunting. I'm not letting them take him off this island.
He's going after him. Alone, if necessary.
That was the tone. His requests to Langley were urgent. Satellite recon, authorization for expanded lethal engagement against any Soviet operatives encountered, and deployment of a backup team, codenamed Stinger Echo.
And his closing words in that transmission, they really hit hard, don't they? About Joey being more than a partner.
It's incredibly raw. It shows that bond forged through hell, he wrote. Joey's more than a partner. He's a living archive of everything we've been through, from Berlin to Egypt to the goddamn ice shelf in Greenland.
Wow, a living archive.
And I swear on everything I've got left, I'll bring him back. Dead or alive, they're not keeping him. It wasn't just policy or procedure for Dino. This was deeply personal. He was going to war for his brother in arms.
That's intense. Okay, so Dino's on the hunt, Langley's alerted. How does the rescue play out? Did Stinger Echo arrive in time?
We jump forward slightly to November 3, 1954. The report comes from Agent Robert Bobby Vance from the Cuba Division. He confirms successful recovery of both Romano and Morelli.
13 days. They got him back fast. Where was he? What state was he in?
Intel pinpointed a suspected Soviet black site, hidden under an old tobacco plantation near Jiguani. Looked like an agricultural depot, but had heavy fortifications, subterranean access. Classic setup.
And inside.
Vance's team breached. Found Joey strapped to a reinforced table in a makeshift torture chamber. It was outfitted with Soviet neurosensory equipment. They were trying to interface with, or maybe just overload, his arm's neural link.
Did they succeed? Did they break the encryption?
Apparently not. The report states he underwent limited interrogation, focused on the arm. He had injuries, lacerations, bruises, broken fingers, exhaustion, dehydration, but Vance confirmed. No breach of neuroprosthetic security confirmed at this time. The arm held. The secrets were safe.
Thank God for that. Okay, so Vance's team got him. Where was Dino during the breach?
This is the amazing part. Vance reported that Dino had launched a solo assault before Vance's unit even got there.
He went in alone against the Soviet black site.
He couldn't wait, fueled by that vow. Vance's report says Dino was already inside the compound when they arrived, having neutralized at least 8 hostiles on his own way to reaching Joey. Just pure, focused fury.
That's unbelievable. One man against a wet team just to get his partner back. Did Dino get hit?
Yeah, he took a gunshot wound to the thigh during the escape, probably a sniper on the roof as they were getting out.
So they get out, both injured but alive. Any more trouble?
One last parting gift from the Soviets. As they were escaping in a stolen Jeep, about 3 miles out, they hit a concealed landmine.
Seriously, after all that?
Yeah, knocked them both unconscious temporarily. Concussions, shock trauma. Vance and his team secured the evac to a safe house, Echo 2, medic prognosis, expected recovery in 10-14 days. Scarred again, but alive.
Just another day at the office for the Coffin brothers, right? Surviving against impossible odds. But the mission wasn't just about the rescue, was it? They captured someone important.
Critically important. Before the compound was presumably sanitized, they captured a senior handler. Semyon Vartov, alias the Professor. And under interrogation, he confirmed something absolutely chilling.
What was it?
The Soviet unit operating in Cuba, the ones who grabbed Joey, they weren't just standard KGB. They were a splinter cell of the now-defunct Project Fantasy.
Oh, Project Fantasy, the Berlin nightmare. They said it was eliminated.
That's what Langley thought. Huge intelligence failure. Vartov revealed the survivors of Fantasy went underground after Berlin. They didn't just disappear, they regrouped, rerouted assets, using Caribbean and Southeast Asian ports, patiently rebuilding their network.
So it wasn't defunct at all. It was dormant, spreading. Where was their new base?
Vartov confirmed. Hong Kong, operating under a shell corporation called Golden Wind Holdings, hiding in plain sight within international trade.
Hong Kong, a major global hub. And did Vartov give them anything else? A name, a code?
Under extreme duress, yeah. He kept repeating a code phrase, one that sends shivers down your spine, knowing what Fantasy was about: biological horrors, genetic manipulation. The phrase was, "The garden still breathes."
The garden still breathes. Oh, that's deeply ominous. It implies the project's core goals, the horrific experiments, are still alive, still growing somewhere.
Precisely. So the recommendations back to Langley were immediate and urgent. First, reclassify Project Fantasy as active, not terminated. Big deal. Second, start intense surveillance on Golden Wind Holdings and any associated biotech or trade companies in Hong Kong.
And the third recommendation, involving Romano and Morelli.
Prepare for possible redeployment of Romano and Morelli to Asia following medical clearance.
Unbelievable. They barely survived Cuba, barely survived Greenland. Joey's still adapting to his arm. And they're already lining them up to go hunt the ghosts of Project Fantasy in Hong Kong.
The cycle never stops for them. And Bobby Vance, the agent who ran the rescue, added a final observation in his report. It really sums up the Coffin brothers.
What did he write?
The Coffin brothers are alive, scarred again, but breathing. And from what I saw in Dino's eyes before he blacked out, they're going to want payback.
Payback. Not just duty anymore. Personal.
Seems that way. A deep, burning need to finish what started in Berlin.
And so the relentless cycle just keeps turning. We've just tracked Joseph Romano and Dominic Morelli from the aftermath of Egypt through Joey's incredible experimental recovery.
Right, the biomechanical arm, Project Alderbranch.
Then plunged them into the bio-horror of Project Unicorn and Ruth under the Greenland ice.
5 miles of sentient, hostile biome, Operation Rootfall.
Then immediately into the political cauldron of revolutionary Cuba, training Castro's rebels.
Only for Joey to be captured by a Soviet team, leading to that desperate solo rescue by Dino.
And culminating in the absolutely shocking revelation that Project Fantasy, the nightmare from Berlin, is still alive, operating out of Hong Kong. The garden still breathes.
It's an absolutely staggering sequence of events, compressed into roughly a year and a half. The physical cost, the psychological toll.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to imagine. Joey's rebuilt arm, the new scars Dino collected in Cuba, they just keep getting pushed back into the meat grinder.
Their resilience is off the charts. But like Vance observed, maybe it's not just resilience or duty anymore. Maybe that payback is what fuels them now. That bond, that shared history of trauma, maybe it demands resolution.
It makes you wonder, what is the ultimate breaking point? Or are they somehow beyond breaking now, forged into something else by the sheer extremity of their experiences?
And for you, listening to this, think about Project Fantasy's return. This isn't just a Cold War spy story. It's about horrors assumed buried resurfacing globally. A human experimentation program, thought destroyed, setting up shop in Hong Kong.
That code phrase, the garden still breathes. What does it really imply about the nature of these shadow conflicts? Are these kinds of terrible projects ever truly stopped? Or do they just go dormant, mutate, and wait for a chance to bloom again in the dark? This deep dive, it peels back a layer, shows you a hidden history where the stakes weren't just political, they were existential, where the enemies weren't always human, and where survival came at an almost unimaginable price.
There's always more beneath the surface, always another layer to uncover.
Keep digging, keep questioning. We'll be back soon to continue the dive. Welcome back to The Deep Dive, where we take complex narratives and extract the most vital insights for you, our curious listener. Today we're concluding an extraordinary saga, one that has plunged us into the absolute depths of human endurance and the chilling realities of Cold War shadow operations. We're diving into the final documented chapters of Joseph Romano and Dominic Morelli, 2 men known in the classified files only as the Coffin brothers.
For those of you who've been with us since the beginning of their story, you know it's been, well, a relentless journey. Their very existence seems to defy the normal bounds of human survival, and the agency files detailing their missions. They read more like a descent into a nightmare than a standard operational report.
Absolutely. We last left them after they'd somehow survived Project Fantasy in Berlin, that horrific F-47 hallucinogen that turned soldiers into, psychotic killers, leading to the Marzan massacre. That nightmare was followed by the ancient terrors of Project Sandstone in Egypt, a betrayal among the pyramids, and a devastating outcome where Joey Romano tragically lost his left arm. A complete amputation. I mean, that's a career-ending injury for anyone else.
Indeed. But for these two, the agency had other more audacious plans. Their return to active duty seemed impossible, yet the recovery was astonishingly swift. Thanks to Project Alder Branch, a clandestine experimental program nestled away in the remote Yukon. This wasn't just rehabilitation, it was an extreme leap into human augmentation.
And this is where it gets truly unsettling. Romano was not merely healed, he was, and this is the direct quote from the files, enhanced. In 1953, he was fitted with an advanced biomechanical left arm. Forget standard prosthetics, we're talking synthetic muscle fiber.
A metallic carbon iron skeletal structure and a direct neural interface, meaning his brain could communicate directly with the limb.
Exactly, which granted him enhanced grip strength. A subdermal data port for direct system access, essentially. A hidden plug for classified information.
Right. Like a USB port, but in the 50s.
Yeah. And a concealed shortwave burst transmitter, and even a hidden 5-inch utility blade. The assessment claimed a staggering 98.7% functional equivalency to an organic limb, with no known rejection markers.
Imagine the classified technology required for that in the mid-1950s. It reveals a disturbing willingness by the agency to, well, transform its operatives into living weapons, really pushing the boundaries of what it meant to be human.
It's truly unprecedented for the era, a clear indicator of the lengths the agency was willing to go in the Cold War.
And Dominic Morelli's recovery was equally remarkable, deemed fully recovered. His physical conditioning above standard field rating, with exceptional hand-to-hand skills. The agency reports noted his focused aggression under control, and an operationally inseparable bond with Romano.
They were ready, and the agency didn't hesitate to throw them back into the fire.
Immediately. Following this intense recovery and experimental upgrade, they were dispatched to U.S. Research Outpost Theta 7 in Greenland for Project Unicorn.
Right. As we covered, this was a covert paraforming experiment that went catastrophically wrong. The outpost triggered a Level 5 experimental breach alert.
Level 5. Highest alert.
Yeah.
With chilling final broadcasts mentioning distorted speech patterns, screaming, shapes moving under the ice, and living storms.
When the Coffin brothers arrived, they found all 100 staff dead, their bodies rooted into walls with vascular plant material replacing circulatory systems.
Horrific. This was Ruth, a radial unification terraforming hybrid, a mycovine entity. Think of it as a terrifying, rapidly growing fungal plant hybrid.
With complex limbs, exponential growth, and a terrifying cognition equivalent to a 13-year-old human.
Yeah, and it left messages, I am still growing, I am not done. A truly existential threat.
To contain this Level 1 existential biohazard, the highest classification they initiated, Operation Rootfall.
A desperate plan to induce a complete cave-in of Ruth's central core using seismic charges.
This led to an unprecedented magnitude 7.3 seismic event in the Greenland Sea, consistent with a massive contained underground blast, specifically a human-caused or anthropogenic detonation.
It implies Rootfall was executed successfully, averting a continental ecological collapse.
Yeah.
An operation of unimaginable scale, executed by just two men who had just undergone their own monstrous transformations.
Despite surviving Greenland less than a year later, by October 1954, they were undercover in Cuba. Their cover.
American journalists and tactical medics, assisting Fidel Castro's 26th of July movement.
They even ran a revolutionary conditioning program, teaching advanced ambush tactics and training guerrilla medics.
Romano's assessment of Castro was prescient, wasn't it? Charismatic to the bone, unrelentingly idealistic, but also
dangerous, like a fire in a forest. He even raised red flags about the growing influence of Raul Castro and Che Guevara, warning Langley that a successful revolution might not serve U.S. interests long term. His insight into the political landscape was just as sharp as his combat skills.
And then, catastrophe struck. October 20th, Joey Romano was captured.
Dino Morelli finding an Eastern Bloc boot print and evidence of a Soviet wet team, a covert assassination or abduction squad.
He realized the Soviets knew about Joey's biomechanical arm and were specifically targeting its classified intelligence. What's fascinating here is the Soviet awareness of such a top-secret American technological advance.
Yeah, how did they know? Anyway, Dino launched a desperate solo rescue, infiltrating a Soviet black site and neutralizing at least 8 hostiles before backup arrived.
Though Joey was found strapped to a table in a makeshift torture chamber outfitted with Soviet neurosensory equipment, his armed security held. the data was safe.
But the close call was a chilling reminder of the constant danger.
And during the aftermath, they captured a senior handler, Seon Vartov, alias the Professor.
Under interrogation, Vartov confirmed a chilling truth that would send them back into the deep end. Project Fantasy, the nightmare from Berlin, was not eliminated.
Survivors went underground, regrouped using Caribbean and Southeast Asian ports, and were patiently rebuilding their network. Their new base, Hong Kong.
Operating under a shell corporation called Golden Wind Holdings.
And Vartov repeated an ominous code phrase, "The garden still breathes."
A terrifying indication that the bioweapon was still growing, still a threat.
This revelation led to the immediate recommendation for Romano and Morelli's redeployment to Asia. Agent Robert Vance noted in his report, "The Coffin brothers are alive, scarred again, but breathing. And from what I saw in Dino's eyes, they're going to want payback."
It was more than just a mission. It was personal.
Definitely.
So that brings us to today's deep dive, picking up on December 6, 1955. The stage is set for the final confrontation with a ghost from their past, in the heart of Hong Kong, a city teeming with life and shadows. Okay, let's unpack this. So, after the brutal aftermath in Cuba and the chilling revelation that Project Fantasy had merely relocated, you find yourself with the Coffin brothers in Kowloon, Hong Kong. This is December 6, 1955. They're tasked with infiltrating Golden Wind Holdings, the new front for this horrific bioweapon project, in this bustling, vibrant, yet very dangerous city. What was their ingenious cover?
Their cover was particularly clever for the time and place. Traveling medical assistants in Dr. Yan Ling's bustling Tung Choi Street clinic. The choice of surgical masks and doctor smocks wasn't just practical for evading the rudimentary early CCTV systems.
Which were, what, bulky vacuum tube things?
Yeah, exactly. And fragile 16mm film reels and the ever-present British colonial police cameras. It was also culturally savvy. They leveraged local superstition around masks as warding talismans, which helped keep curious triad lookouts and even the general public at, well, a respectful distance. Ensured their anonymity.
That's incredibly resourceful. Hong Kong in the 50s was a true melting pot of cultures, a cauldron of activity, and a hub for illicit trade. Avoiding detection in such a densely populated and watchful environment must have been a constant battle. How did they maintain their anonymity on the ground, beyond the clinic cover?
To maintain their deep anonymity, they cycled identities every 2 weeks. They were acquiring forged Hong Kong registration cards from Kowloon's backstreet shops. This constant fluidity was essential for avoiding detection in a city that was as much a surveillance state as it was a free port. It kept them untraceable, a moving target in a sea of millions, preventing any single identity from being compromised by extended scrutiny.
And their intelligence gathering operation, given the technological limitations of 1955, sounds surprisingly sophisticated. How did they manage to listen in on an entire city, capturing those crucial whispers?
It truly was an analog marvel. They deployed a massive 500-node analog audio network across the city. Imagine it like a low-tech, widespread Internet of Ears for its time. They used Revox tube wire recorders.
Wire recorders, like spool-to-spool metal wire?
Exactly. Cutting edge for personal recording then. Concealed in innocuous places like tea house lanterns, beneath market stalls, deep inside opium den alcoves. These were meticulously paired with crystal set receivers, which they tuned to nightly frequency shifts to pick up coded dispatches.
Wow, and sending info back.
For sending information back to Langley, they used hand-rolled microtransmitters powered by rechargeable lead-acid cells, passing snippets of crucial intel back during scheduled city-wide power outages. It was a painstaking, almost artisanal network of surveillance, built literally brick by brick, wire by wire.
So it wasn't just about the hidden tech. It was deeply reliant on the human element, too. How did they physically get the raw data out of those hidden recorders and back to a central point without being noticed?
The raw data was physically ferried via midnight couriers, a network of tailors, delivery boys, even freed porters from the docks. Individuals who had a plausible reason to be out at odd hours and who were loyal to the right kind of silver dollar.
Right, low-level, deniable assets.
Precisely. These trusted individuals would swap fresh, recorded tapes for payment, ensuring a continuous clandestine flow of intelligence. This intricate system allowed them to collect an average of 30 minutes of high-value conversation per night, often including tantalizing references to Lotus, Orchid, and most crucially, Golden Wind. These fragmented whispers were the first breadcrumbs leading them back to the heart of Project Fantasy.
And Golden Wind Holdings, or GWH, what did they uncover about this shell corporation that was supposedly fronting Project Fantasy? This wasn't just some back alley operation, was it?
Far from it. their intelligence quickly revealed the pervasive influence of Golden Wind Holdings. This wasn't just a corporation. It was referred to by local civil servants and informants as the city's shadow, a sprawling entity woven into nearly every strand of Hong Kong's economy. This made it incredibly difficult to pinpoint its illicit operations from its seemingly legitimate fronts.
It highlights a chilling reality: how deeply state-sponsored clandestine operations could embed themselves, rendering an entire city unwittingly complicit in a global biowarfare program.
Exactly. So GWH had essentially captured the city's infrastructure and even influenced its governance. What specifically allowed them to operate with such impunity?
They controlled significant dock space in Kowloon Bay, leveraging British-run piers for rapid container cycling, making them a hub for illicit goods, a critical artery for their operations.
Right. And through hidden subsidiaries, they owned over 20 tenement blocks in Cham Shui Po, serving both as safe houses for their operations and grim forced labor rooms for those who crossed them.
Grim and the money.
Financially, they laundered opium profits through clandestine ties with early Triad factions, precursors to the notorious 14K and Sun Yi-on, funneling money through pawn shops and even Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation HSBC front accounts.
Wow, HSBC.
And politically. And perhaps most alarming, GWH directors met regularly with the Colonial Secretariat under the guise of development grants, a powerful facade that ensured police and customs often turned a blind eye to suspicious cargo. This level of infiltration meant they were operating with near impunity.
So Golden Wind Holdings was deeply entrenched. But Hong Kong in 1955 wasn't just about corporate shadows. It was a city boiling with triad activity, which must have added an immense layer of complication and danger to their already precarious deep cover.
The 1955 criminal landscape was indeed incredibly volatile. Sun Yi-on splinter cells were engaging in fierce turf wars within Kowloon Walled City.
The Walled City, legendary place.
Oh, yeah. Frequently drawing British riot police into disruptive night sweeps. This constant chaos directly impacted the Coffin brothers' operation, making every movement a potential life-or-death decision.
And their clinic cover, how did that fare amidst this escalating gang violence and the Triad's pervasive presence?
Their clinic cover occasionally overlapped with Triad medicine men, who saw medical services not as, a humanitarian act, but as a commodity ripe for extortion. This forced Joey and Dino to either bribe or bluff their way past these demands, which wasn't just about money. It was crucial for maintaining their deep cover, preventing direct engagements that could expose them or compromise their network. The pressure was constant.
So they're dealing with the Triads, the police, and Golden Wind's deep reach. Did this volatile environment lead to any operational losses for them or setbacks in their intelligence gathering?
Unfortunately, yes. The pervasive volatility had direct impacts on their intelligence gathering. A recent gunfight between rival gangs in Fortress Hill resulted in smashed wire arrays and the loss of 3 recording units.
Ouch.
Yeah. These were costly losses both in terms of irreplaceable equipment and, more importantly, crucial intelligence time. Each lost unit meant a blind spot in their surveillance grid.
That's a significant setback when you're trying to track a ghost organization. How did they adapt to this treacherous environment, perhaps even leveraging it to gain an edge, especially with their cover being threatened?
To navigate this and gain an edge, they began a calculated risk, bartering surgical services to low-level Triad members injured in these turf wars.
Really? Patching up gangsters?
This wasn't altruism. It was a strategic exchange for protection corridors within gang territories, safe passage, essentially, and critically, invaluable intel on GWH-linked warehouses and movements that their traditional methods couldn't penetrate. It was a Faustian bargain, turning a threat into an intelligence advantage.
Just as they were closing in on Golden Wind, a new technical obstacle emerged that really threatened their entire analog network. What was it, and how did it signify GWH's evolving counterintelligence capabilities?
Just as they were closing in, a novel obstacle emerged that truly showcased Golden Wind's evolving capabilities and revealed they were aware of being spied on. Electromagnetic interference, likely from a new GWH-owned radio jammer tower near Mong Kok, began scrambling up to 40% of their nightly recordings.
40%? That's huge.
Yeah, and this was compounded by GWH engineers actively testing pulse-modulated encryption, essentially, a primitive form of digital scrambling that jammed frequencies during peak smuggling hours. It was a sophisticated counterintelligence move designed to deafen their surveillance efforts.
And on top of the jamming, they were facing increased scrutiny from local authorities, right? The net seemed to be closing in from all sides.
Precisely. The Colonial Police Commissioner initiated limited surveillance on unauthorized foreign wire recorders. This signaled a potential clampdown that could force them to rebuild their entire 500-node network from scratch, which would be a massive, time-consuming setback, and one they simply couldn't afford with Project Fantasy growing. The pressure was immense.
So what urgent requirements did they send back to Langley to counter these escalating threats and maintain their operational integrity? What did they need to push through this?
To counter these escalating threats and maintain their operational integrity, they requested specific, cutting-edge reinforcements for the time. Portable vacuum tube suppressors to bypass GWH jamming.
Vacuum tubes to fight jamming. Wow.
Yeah. A British-trained encryption specialist for on-site support tasked with reverse engineering the pulse modulation. An additional safe house north of Victoria Peak to establish a backup server and operational hub. And crucially, an upgrade to their cover identities, including access to real Colonial Police IDs to misdirect any inquiries into their wire recording seizures.
Real police IDs. That shows how dark their cover needed to be and how desperate they were to continue their mission.
Definitely.
So they're battling interference, triad wars, and police scrutiny. But amidst all this static and chaos, a crucial new lead emerged in January 1956. What did their audio nodes pick up, and why was it so chillingly familiar?
Amidst the static and triad conflicts, their audio nodes began capturing fragmented references to Lotus Bloom, Serum Recall, and Rising Tide. These whispers emanated from a closed-door fighting ring beneath the old Kowloon dockside warehouses. It was a subtle but chilling connection to their past, specifically to the F-47 project, as Lotus had been an internal code name.
A fighting ring? That sounds like a strange place to find a lead on Project Fantasy. Who was running it, and what kind of operation was this?
Local rumor quickly identified the organizer as General Cheng Weilan, a retired ex-Kuomintang commander. He was known for operating brutal cage matches for triad funding and patronage by Golden Wind Holdings.
So GWH was backing it.
Right. The location itself was ominous. A subterranean vault beneath Warehouse 47, Stonecutter's Island Causeway. It wasn't just a simple fight club. It was a controlled, brutal proving ground.
And who was attending these brutal fights? Was it just low-level thugs looking for a thrill?
Far from it. This wasn't just street brawling. The attendance included high-value GWH middle management, triad lieutenants, and even occasional expatriate agents, signaling its immense importance to GWH operations. It was a key nexus for the criminal and corporate elements of Golden Wind, a place where power changed hands and alliances were forged in blood.
What specifically caught their attention at these fights? Something that instantly connected it to their previous nightmares in Berlin.
Crucially, they observed fighters being injected with an unknown green-tinged tonic before bouts. Quick-cut audio captures revealed code words like F-47, Garden, and unicorn-chilling echoes of their past nightmares in Berlin and Greenland.
F-47 unicorn. Oh, man.
Yeah. There was also mention of a fresh shipment arriving at Kowloon Bay docks that week, suggesting a continuous resupply of this sinister substance. The immediate dread was palpable. Fantasy was alive and evolving.
This sounds like their most direct lead. How did they plan to infiltrate this dangerous, brutal environment and get closer to the source of this new fantasy variant?
This fight club presented their most direct lead to the new iteration of Project Fantasy in Hong Kong. Given the nature of the target, Dino Morelli was tasked with a high-stakes human intelligence insertion. His cover was Iron Dragon, a forged identity as a Shanxi pit boxer. It was a mission that demanded not just skill, but an unparalleled level of personal sacrifice and endurance.
Dino, in the ring, what were his objectives? Just fighting or something far more dangerous?
His objectives were clear and incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Participate in 2 matches to earn General Cheng's trust, secure a private audience to overhear operational directives, and most critically, smuggle out vials of the tonic for laboratory analysis. He literally had to put his body on the line, risking permanent injury or death, all for a few milliliters of a terrifying substance.
And what was Joey Romano's critical role in supporting this incredibly risky mission from the outside?
While Dino took center stage in the ring, putting his physical safety on the line, Joey Romano maintained their surgical mask clinic surveillance network. He deployed 3 additional wire recorders around Cheng's private quarters and his North Point office and began tracing the supply chains of the green tonic back to Golden Wind's distribution network. It was a synchronized effort, with Joey acting as the eyes and ears on the outside, a constant vital link in a precarious chain.
So the mission was fraught with peril. The tonic's effects were unknown, so Dino was potentially exposing himself to a new, horrifying bioagent.
Exactly. He was equipped with a field antibody kit and a portable hyperfilter respirator to guard against potential biohazard exposure, a grim necessity. Discovery by triads or GWH security was a constant threat, mitigated only by his medical cover credentials and a substantial bribe fund, equivalent to $5,000 HKD, allocated to smooth any suspicious interactions.
5,000 Hong Kong dollars was a lot back then.
Oh yeah. And General Cheng's reputation for ruthlessness meant Dino carried a concealed stun device and a microsuppressor pistol, a testament to the fact that his cover was extremely thin and could be compromised at any moment. The psychological toll of such a mission, knowing every punch could be your last and every conversation could expose a lie, must have been immense.
So they're walking a very fine line, balancing extreme personal risk with the absolute necessity of uncovering this new threat. What urgent request did they send back to Langley to support this critical mission, knowing General Cheng's circus closes its doors in 3 nights?
To support this critical mission, they requested rapid lab analysis of tonic samples, once secured, to detect mycelial or chem hallucinogen signatures, crucial for understanding the new fantasy variant's exact composition and effects. They also needed a supplemental safe house near Stonecutter's Island for immediate extraction if Dino's cover was blown, a vital contingency.
Right, an emergency exit.
And, perhaps surprisingly, approval for limited use of non-lethal crowd control measures, specifically tear gas grenades disguised as fire extinguishers for emergency exfiltration. The clock was ticking, as Romano noted. Cheng's circus closes its doors in 3 nights. The pressure was on.
So Dino Morelli, under the moniker Iron Dragon, is now deep undercover in General Cheng's brutal fight club. He's putting his body on the line, literally. How did he fare in the ring during that first month, and what did his performance reveal about his skills, even in this horrific environment?
Over the next month, Agent Morelli proved his mettle in the most visceral way possible, climbing from novice to a third-tier contender within General Cheng's circuit. His win-loss record stood at an impressive 5-2, with 2 victories by knockout and 1 by disqualification of the opponent due to an illegal bone-breaking hold.
Ooh, so he was good. Really good.
He was a force to be reckoned with, a testament to his unparalleled physical conditioning and focused aggression, even in this depraved setting. It also shows a remarkable level of strategic thinking within the ring, understanding how to manipulate the rules to his advantage.
The outline mentions fatal injuries to other fighters. This was truly a no-rules environment, wasn't it? What does that say about General Cheng and the world he operated?
Absolutely. The no-rules nature of Cheng's events was brutally underscored by tragic fatal injuries suffered by 2 fighters. One from internal hemorrhaging, another from a crushed skull. These weren't just casualties, they were public executions, designed to entertain and intimidate. These incidents highlighted the extreme danger and even shifted local sentiment against Cheng.
But Dino tried to mitigate it slightly.
What's compelling here is how Dino, despite the brutality he was forced into, discreetly arranged for 2 medical attendants at ringside, under the guise of specialist trainers, to offer minimal safeguards. It speaks to his underlying humanity and concern for life, even as he embodied the Iron Dragon.
Beyond the brutal matches, something even more sinister began to emerge, something directly linked to their past nightmares in Berlin. What did their surveillance and tail teams identify consistently attending these fights?
Beyond the brutal matches, a more sinister pattern began to emerge that sent a chill down their spines. Wire nodes and mobile tail teams identified 3 suspected Soviet operatives consistently attending fights as investors.
Soviets? Again?
Yeah. Their characteristics, 1 male in his mid-40s speaking Russian to Cheng's aides, and 2 accomplices logging crowd patterns and exit routes, strongly suggested that Golden Wind Holdings was coordinating directly with the remnants of Project Fantasy's original Soviet handlers. This wasn't just a reemergence, it was a reunification of old enemies, and it underscored the vast persistent reach of the global Cold War shadow network.
They tailed them?
They were being tailed to the Kowloon Bay docks, but direct engagement was avoided to prevent alerting GWH to their full presence. Too risky.
So Project Fantasy wasn't just active, it was still tied to its original Soviet architects, indicating a deeper, more entrenched conspiracy. And the initial green tonic they saw the fighters taking, had it evolved beyond what they encountered in Berlin?
This is where the true horror of Project Fantasy's evolution comes into terrifying focus. The Coffin brothers confirmed their worst fears.
Yeah.
The project had evolved significantly beyond the F-47 hallucinogen they encountered in Berlin. Audio intercepts and a recovered vial from Dino's corner confirmed a highly concentrated, fine white powder they designated F-77 Delta.
F-77 Delta.
Not F-47.
No, this was no simple rebottling. It was a terrifying upgrade.
A powder. That sounds far more insidious than a liquid. How was this new, more potent variant being delivered, and what were its devastating effects?
This new variant, F-77 Delta, was designed for discreet ingestion, meaning it could be delivered almost invisibly. It was smuggled in gelatin capsules, subtly applied to cigarettes, or even mixed into tea.
So you wouldn't even know. Exactly. Allowing for its quiet dissemination among high-value targets or unsuspecting populations, the effects were terrifyingly deceptive. Initially, accelerated cellular regeneration, giving a false sense of enhanced health or endurance. But this was quickly followed by acute tissue necrosis, the rapid death of living tissue and violent psychosis within 48-72 hours. It was a slow-acting, devastating bioweapon designed to break down the body and mind from within.
So they were literally field testing this horrific powder on the unwitting fighters in Cheng's club, essentially using them as human lab rats.
Precisely. It was deceptively marketed as a miracle stimulant for combat endurance, rigorously tested on fighters to enhance aggression and pain tolerance within Cheng's club. This powder variant was manufactured off-site in controlled GWH labs and funneled into the underground fighting circuit to field test its efficacy on live subjects.
What's truly horrifying here is the sheer depravity of using human beings as unwitting test subjects, turning their brutal sport into a laboratory for global biowarfare.
It's a chilling reminder of the utter disregard for human life these programs held.
What were the challenges in detecting F-77 Delta, given its new form and insidious delivery, and how did the Coffin brothers leverage the desperate situation of the affected fighters to their advantage?
F-77 Delta's minute sample size made detection incredibly difficult, and critically, existing field test kits for the F-47 liquid were largely ineffective on this new powdered variant. The presence of Russian tail teams remained a force multiplier risk, making direct confrontation too dangerous and potentially exposing their entire mission.
But they found a way.
However, fighters showing early, unsettling symptoms like overnight tremors and rapid wound closure presented a desperate opportunity. This allowed Dino to discreetly arrange for their medical care, which was in fact a cover for discreet quarantine and biosample collection, allowing them to gather crucial intelligence on its effects and composition. It was a calculated, ethically complex move.
To advance their investigation against this evolving, terrifying threat, what urgent equipment needs did they request from Langley? They needed to hit back hard and fast.
To truly advance their investigation and counter this evolving threat, they requested portable mass spectrometer units capable of detecting mycelial spore proteins in powdered form, as existing kits were useless against this new variant.
Mass specs in the field. In 56.
Highly advanced stuff. They also sought authorization to extract at-risk fighters for controlled exposure and sample analysis, a highly controversial but necessary step to understand the agent fully. Furthermore, they requested satellite thermal scans of GWH-controlled warehouses, looking for small-scale reactor emissions.
Satellite scans in 56, were those even a thing? Maybe high-altitude aircraft?
The file says satellite, could be shorthand for aerial thermal imaging, but the request highlights the tech level they were operating at, or at least aiming for, and increased tail team coverage at dockside exits to intercept capsule shipments. All of these requests indicated the growing scale and sophistication of Project Fantasy and the desperate need for advanced countermeasures.
This is truly escalating beyond anything they've faced before. By March 1956, intelligence revealed a terrifying California invasion plot. What was the depth of collaboration between these ruthless Russian handlers and the local triad factions at this point?
By March 18, 1956, intelligence revealed a significant collaboration between the Russian handlers, now definitively identified as remnants of Project Fantasy's original architects, and local triad factions like Sun Ye-on and 14K Splinter Cells.
Yeah.
This alliance utilized the underground fighting network not just for money and entertainment, but for recruitment and conditioning of a new kind of soldier.
What's fascinating here, and deeply disturbing, is how disparate elements, a Cold War biowarfare program and organized crime, converged to create a unified, terrifying new enemy.
So it wasn't just a loose alliance, it was a deeply integrated joint operation. How were they working together logistically and financially to fund and fuel this horrific scheme?
This is a deeply integrated operation. Russian operatives now supplied triad muscle with the F-77 Delta powder, specifically enhancing fighter aggression and resilience for their sinister purposes.
So the triads provided the bodies, the Russians provided the drug.
Exactly. Triad gambling revenues, generated from the fight clubs and opium trade, were laundered through Golden Wind Holdings with direct Russian oversight, providing a clandestine financial backbone for the entire operation. And triad enforcers even provided local protection for Russian research convoys transporting raw biosubstrate materials, the very ingredients for manufacturing F-77. It was a perfectly symbiotic, perfectly evil relationship.
And was there a clear, unified command structure for this chilling alliance? Was there a single brain behind this monstrous plan?
Yes, there was. A Russian handler codenamed Mlednets, or Baby in Russian.
Baby, that's unnerving.
Yeah. Mlednets was identified coordinating weekly meetings at a secure villa in Repulse Bay with key triad lieutenants and Golden Wind executives. Protocols for capsule distribution, quality control testing on fighters, and transport manifests were standardized under a combined triad Russian council. This wasn't ad hoc. It was a structured, unified command, meticulously planning something truly catastrophic.
Dino Morelli, as Iron Dragon, was deep in this twisted world, rubbing shoulders with the very architects of this plot. Did he manage to make a crucial breakthrough with this unified command?
He did. Agent Morelli deepened his cover to an extraordinary degree, securing a crucial rapport with Old Master Kwok Tai Lung, the undisputed patron of Kowloon's fight underworld. Kwok oversaw match scheduling, fighter vetting, and discreet medical care for injured contestants, making him a central figure. Through Kwok's patronage, Dino gained full run of the backroom offices, ideal for further eavesdropping and intelligence gathering.
Wow. That's incredible access, a triumph of human intelligence earning the trust of the enemy through sheer grit and calculated risk.
And what critical operational details did this unprecedented access finally yield? This is where the California invasion plot, a direct threat to U.S. soil, really comes into focus, right?
This access yielded truly critical, stomach-churning operational details. Dio obtained shipping ledgers, disguised as civil engineering equipment, which in fact detailed monthly F-77 capsule shipments to a West Coast transit point in the United States.
Disguised ledgers. Classic tradecraft.
And more chillingly, he obtained blueprints of a hidden docking slip beneath Sham Shui Po Pier, leading directly to a freighter bound for San Francisco. This wasn't just a supply chain, it was a blueprint for a direct, covert attack.
So this wasn't just a shipment of drugs or weapons, it was a recruitment pipeline for an invasion force. How was this covert battalion being assembled and trained?
This was a full-fledged invasion plot, using human beings as pawns. Fighters demonstrating extreme pain tolerance and accelerated wound healing due to F-77 were flagged for special duty.
The ones reacting best to the drug.
Right. Bi-weekly, they were transferred to a clandestine compound in the New Territories, codenamed Camp Jasmine, for additional dosing and rigorous guerrilla tactics training. Their exfiltration route was via the repurposed Hong Kong-San Francisco freighter MV Golden Breeze, docking clandestinely under an industrial goods pretext. It was a terrifying production line for bio-enhanced soldiers.
And what was their ultimate objective once these enhanced forces landed in California? What was the terrifying endgame for this whole scheme?
Their mission was to establish a covert battalion of enhanced infantry in California, intended to, quote, seize key ports, communications hubs, and initiate a broader Western U.S. insurgency. This was no small-scale infiltration. It was a plan to destabilize the United States from within, using bio-enhanced soldiers, an unprecedented act of Cold War aggression.
What was the terrifying scale of this threat? How many enhanced fighters were we talking about? And when was the first deployment scheduled to hit U.S. shores?
The scale was terrifying. An estimated 1,200 conditioned fighters were in training at Camp Jasmine, with a full battalion strength of 500 slated for initial deployment.
500 F-77 enhanced soldiers hitting San Francisco.
Yeah. F-77 granted temporary superendurance, though a cleanup phase was planned post-mission to mitigate the risk of psychosis, a cold, pragmatic detail. The first freighter voyage was projected for June 1956, ominously coinciding with U.S. West Coast maritime dry dock schedules, making it easier to slip in unnoticed.
Then the local authorities.
What's particularly alarming is that Hong Kong colonial authorities appeared unwitting of the entire scheme, highlighting the incredible depth of Golden Wind's infiltration and influence.
Given the gravity of this unique existential threat to U.S. domestic security, what urgent, perhaps desperate recommendations did Romano send back to Langley?
Romano urged immediate surveillance enhancement on the MV Golden Breeze and increased tail team coverage on Sham Shui Po piers during known loading windows. For disruption, he recommended covertly sabotaging Camp Jasmine infrastructure via underwater demolition and, ingeniously, introducing a counteragent to the F-77 distribution chain to neutralize its bioeffects in recruits.
Sabotage the drug itself. Smart.
Very. Diplomatically, he advised briefing U.S. West Coast intelligence and coordinating with British colonial security for targeted raids on Golden Wind holdings. He stressed that the convergence of Russian biowarfare expertise with Triad enforcement created a unique existential threat to U.S. domestic security, and disrupting this pipeline was imperative. The fate of the entire West Coast, perhaps the nation, hung in the balance.
So, with the California invasion plot uncovered, the clock was ticking down to June 1956. The Coffin brothers knew they couldn't wait for diplomatic channels. What was the emergency strike plan put into action, and when did they finally move?
On March 25, 1956, at 0200 H's Hong Kong time, Romano initiated an emergency directive. Surveillance had, at 2330 H's the night before, finally confirmed the precise location of Golden Wind Holdings' primary project fantasy manufacturing and trading complex.
He found it. Where was it?
Situated 10 miles southeast of Kowloon on reclaimed coastal land near Lei Yu Mun at precise coordinates of 22.2838 degrees Nen, 114.2345 degrees east. This was the heart of the beast.
What was the layout of this fortified lair, and what kind of enemy forces were they up against? This sounds like a suicide mission.
The layout was formidable, designed to be impenetrable. 5 reinforced bunkers interconnected by service tunnels, surrounded by a 12-foot razor wire perimeter with watchtowers. It housed underground laboratories for F-77 production, barracks blocks for the enhanced soldiers, and munitions storage, all powered by a dedicated diesel generator farm.
And the defenders.
Field reconnaissance confirmed approximately 500 F-77 enhanced combat-ready infantry, commanded by 4 Russian advisors and Triad-affiliated security lieutenants. They were armed with AK-47s, FN Model 49 rifles, light mortars, and even experimental psychotoxin grenades derived from F-77 powder, meaning the very air could become a weapon.
500 enhanced soldiers, Russian advisors, psychotoxin grenades. That's a truly well-fortified, well-armed enemy. What was the critical threat assessment, and why was this strike considered so urgently necessary, bypassing all traditional protocols?
The facility was on high alert, with preparatory drills observed, indicating they were moments away from deploying. Intelligence indicated the window for a preemptive strike is closing rapidly. Forces were scheduled to embark on the next available freighter to San Francisco by early April, effectively launching the covert invasion. There was no time to spare. A direct assault was the only option.
No, they had to go now.
This urgency is why Romano initiated Operation Iron Lotus under Devastator standing orders, which means no further approval was required. It's the highest level of executive action, granting them full autonomy to act, knowing the fate of the nation rested on their immediate intervention.
So Operation Iron Lotus was greenlit. What was the meticulously planned 3-phase assault plan for this final desperate confrontation?
Operation Iron Lotus was meticulously planned in 3 critical phases. Phase 1 was breach via precision demolitions at 0300 H's. Targets included the diesel generator farm to black out perimeter lighting, the main gate supports, and the watchtower foundations. 4 5-kilogram shaped charge breaching bombs were pre-rigged with synchronized timers for maximum impact.
A coordinated strike.
This wasn't a frontal assault. It was a surgical decapitation of their defenses. Phase 2 involved infiltration and elimination. 2 6-man assault squads, fully armed with then cutting-edge night vision optics and suppressed weapons, would secure entry through the breached gates, neutralize guard towers on site.
Kill on sight. No prisoners.
Right. Advance to the barracks blocks to eliminate all conditioned infantry, and finally locate and destroy F-77 stockpiles and lab reactors. This is a complete decapitation strike designed to eradicate the bio-threat at its source, leaving nothing behind.
And after the breach and the brutal infiltration, what was the plan for their escape, the exfiltration from this impossible mission?
Phase 3 was exfiltration. The rendezvous point was an extraction LZ at the South Beach by speedboats. Contingency plans included a high-value dead drop at Tungchung for aerial evac if the primary extraction was compromised, a testament to the extreme risks involved.
They planned for the worst.
Romano's report concluded with stark, unwavering urgency. There can be no delay. Project Fantasy's heart must be destroyed before midnight GMT to prevent Trans-Pacific deployment. We move now. The post-strike confirmation uplink code, meant to signal success, was chillingly simple. Lotus Ashes.
Lotus Ashes. So, Operation Iron Lotus was executed on March 25, 1956. After all of this, after all the horrifying intelligence, was Project Fantasy finally, definitively eliminated?
Yes. Operation Lotus Ghost executed Operation Iron Lotus with devastating effectiveness. The facility was successfully destroyed via synchronized demolitions and direct assault squads. All bunkers and underground labs collapsed in controlled detonations. Satellite imaging and on-site debriefs confirmed the complete elimination of F-77 production capability and destruction of all infrastructure. Project Fantasy as a physical entity was gone. The immediate existential threat it posed to the U.S. was averted.
But victory rarely comes without an unimaginable cost for the Coffin brothers. What unforeseen collateral damage occurred during the assault, and what were the immediate implications of that?
This is where the triumph turns to tragedy, and where the lingering horror of Project Fantasy truly manifests. During the subterranean demolitions, the volatility of residual F-77 contaminated biomass,
Meaning the leftover drug and bodies.
combined with the structural instability of the reclaimed coastal land, led to a chain reaction implosion. A section of the adjacent mountain ridge collapsed, creating a torsional landslide that displaced an astonishing 2 million cubic meters of earth into the harbor. It was an environmental catastrophe on an immense scale, a raw, undeniable scar on the landscape.
A mountain collapsing into the harbor, that must have caused immense political fallout, an immediate international incident.
Absolutely. The People's Republic of China, specifically the Hong Kong colonial government, immediately initiated a formal investigation into the unexpected mountain collapse, citing massive public safety concerns and severe environmental damage. While no confirmed civilian casualties were reported, there was significant infrastructure damage to nearby fishing villages and port warehouses, creating a massive diplomatic headache for the British and, by extension, the Americans. This operation, intended to be silent, left an undeniable mark visible from space.
And the Coffin brothers, Joseph Romano and Dominic Morelli, what was their personal devastating cost in this final cataclysmic assault? What did they sacrifice?
Both principal field agents sustained catastrophic injuries during the assault and the subsequent structural collapse, paying a price almost too high to bear. Agent Romano lost his right biomechanical arm, destroyed by collapsing debris, a bitter and cruel irony given the experimental nature of his original left arm.
He lost the other arm. Oh, God.
Yeah. He also sustained blast trauma to his left leg, necessitating an above-knee amputation, and suffered multiple gunshot wounds to his torso and shrapnel injuries to his head and chest. His body, already a testament to advanced technology, was shattered again.
And Morelli. His injuries sound equally horrific, perhaps even more so given his prior reliance on his senses and physical prowess.
Agent Morelli suffered bilateral lower limb loss, with both legs amputated above the knee due to blast fractures. He endured complete ocular destruction, losing both eyes from shrapnel.
Lost his sight. Both legs.
Yeah. He also sustained deep stab wounds to his abdomen and left shoulder during close-quarters combat. Their bodies were quite literally shattered by the mission, a testament to the brutal, unforgiving nature of the war they waged. The human cost of preventing this biocatastrophe was staggering.
But even in that shattered state, they were extracted, weren't they? A glimmer of hope amidst the devastation.
Yes, heroically. Following the detonation and collapse, a secondary extraction team, call sign, Phantom 9, secured both gravely injured agents under heavy fire. They were evacuated via airlift to Facility Nightshade for advanced medical care, a highly classified cutting-edge facility designed for just such extreme casualties, a place where the boundaries of medical science were constantly pushed.
So they made it to Facility Nightshade. What was their medical status upon arrival, and what was the prognosis for recovery for these two agents who had given everything, quite literally their very bodies, for national security?
Upon arrival at Facility Nightshade, both agents were placed into medically induced comas and submerged in proprietary regenerative hydrogel chambers.
Regenerative hydrogel, like science fiction.
Imagine being suspended in a nutrient-rich, bioactive liquid designed to expedite cellular repair and prevent infection, a science fiction concept made real by the urgency of the Cold War. This was cutting-edge, highly classified medical technology being deployed to save them.
And what were the specific protocols for Romano, given his extensive and complex injuries, especially with his existing biomechanical arm?
Joseph Romano was fitted with second-generation biomechanical prostheses for his newly lost right arm and both legs. He was undergoing neural interface calibration, which is essentially training his brain to control these new mechanical parts as if they were his own flesh and blood, and dermal grafting for sensory restoration. It was an ambitious attempt to reconnect a shattered body to even more advanced machine parts, pushing the limits of what was medically possible.
And Morelli, with his unique and profound injuries, what was his path to recovery? The loss of his sight must have been particularly devastating for a field agent.
Dominic Morelli was fitted with ocular neuroimplants, which provided prosthetic vision via an optical nerve electrode array, a true marvel for the time, essentially, bionic eyes that sent signals directly to his optical nerve.
Bionic eyes in 1956.
Unbelievable, right? He also received bilateral leg prostheses with subdermal muscle stim units to aid in mobility and underwent intensive reconstructive surgery for his abdominal and shoulder trauma.
It sounds like an unimaginably long and arduous road to recovery for both of them. How long were they expected to remain in this state?
Indeed. Both were expected to remain comatose and in regenerative therapy for approximately 2 more months, at which point neurological evaluation and physical rehabilitation would commence. The journey back to any semblance of normalcy, to simply regaining basic control of their bodies, would be monumental.
So Project Fantasy was eliminated, but at an immense and highly visible cost. What were the strategic considerations and new challenges facing the agency in the immediate aftermath of Iron Lotus, beyond just the recovery of the Coffin brothers?
While the total elimination of Project Fantasy removed an immediate existential biohazard to the U.S., new and complex challenges arose. Environmental remediation of the collapsed mountain site and adjacent waterways needed urgent coordination to prevent widespread biocontamination from the F-77 biomass.
The landslide cleanup.
Exactly. Political fallout with the Hong Kong colonial government required delicate diplomatic communication to manage the public narrative of an unexplained mountain failure, rather than revealing the true nature of the operation. And crucially, the devastating loss of 2 elite operatives, 2 of their most skilled and hardened assets, imposed a temporary capability gap in unconventional biothreat field operations, necessitating accelerated recruitment and training initiatives for a new generation of agents.
So, after all they've endured, after literally giving their bodies to halt a global catastrophe, the Coffin brothers are in advanced regenerative therapy, facing a long road ahead. What happens next for these living legends, these men who literally gave their bodies for national security?
On October 30th, 1956, a personnel memorandum formalized the next unprecedented chapter for agents Joseph Romano and Dominic Morelli. It acknowledged their completion of over 6 years of continuous field service, including multiple high-risk Cold War operations like Night Key, Desert Sands, Unicorn, Lotus Ghost, and Bay Smoke.
6 years straight.
Yeah. Their contributions culminated in the total elimination of the bioengineered threat Project Fantasy, which preserved U.S. national security on multiple continents. 6 years of fighting horrors most people couldn't even imagine.
6 years of continuous high-risk operations. That's an unbelievable track record for any agent. But given their catastrophic injuries and the long recovery ahead, were they still considered fit for active duty?
Unfortunately, no. The report starkly stated that both agents remained in advanced regenerative therapy, recovering from their catastrophic combat injuries sustained March 1956. Agent Romano was scheduled to emerge from comatose recovery mid-November, pending neural prosthetic calibration essentially, teaching his brain how to use his new bionic limbs.
Getting used to the new hardware.
Right. Agent Morelli was expected to regain basic vision function post-coma, followed by initial mobility training with prosthetics. Crucially, both were deemed physically incapacitated for active field duty at this time, and unlikely to return to full operational readiness within standard timelines. Their bodies, however technologically advanced, had simply taken too much damage.
So their active field duty, the brutal, constant combat they'd known for years, was officially over. What was the administrative action taken by the agency?
Effective November 15, 1956, both agents were to be honorably separated from active CIA service under Medical Retirement Code 4X. This was a formal acknowledgement of their service and profound sacrifice. However, and this is where it gets truly fascinating, their security clearances were to remain at Special Access Program, SAP level, Black Vault.
Black Vault. That's the highest there is, isn't it?
Pretty much. This was a significant and rare designation. It recognizes their ongoing need to know for potential future engagements, a testament to the unparalleled depth of classified information they held and their unique operational value. It means they were retired, yes, but still held access to the most closely guarded secrets, hinting that their service wasn't truly over.
That's a powerful statement. They're medically retired but still hold the highest level of clearance, implying they're still in the loop, still considered vital. What unprecedented commendations were recommended for their valor and unimaginable sacrifice?
In view of their exemplary valor, resourcefulness, and devotion to mission objectives, it was recommended that both agents be approved for a series of high honors almost unheard of for living recipients. First, the CIA Valor Cross, described as a posthumous-style recognition for living recipients, underscoring the near-fatal cost of their missions.
Wow, a posthumous award for the living.
Yeah. Second, the Director's Distinguished Service Medal. And finally, a submission for the Congressional Intelligence Medal of Honor for presidential approval. These awards were intended to reflect their conduct under extreme duress, their successful containment of multiple high-level threats, and their profound sacrifice of personal well-being for national security. They were being recognized for giving everything, including parts of themselves.
So despite their physical incapacitation, the agency clearly wanted to retain access to their unique skill sets, their living archives of Cold War horrors. How did they plan to keep these retired agents engaged, transforming their service into something new?
Given their unique skill sets and proven loyalty, the agency planned to place both agents Romano and Morelli in the agency's civilian contractor reserve roster. This allowed for their continued engagement despite their medical retirement, essentially creating a new kind of service. They were too valuable, too uniquely experienced to simply let go.
What kind of roles would they be eligible for in this civilian contractor reserve? What did the agency envision for these men who had literally been rebuilt by their missions?
They would be eligible for strategic consulting on biothreat countermeasure development, leveraging their first-hand visceral experience with entities like Ruth and Project Fantasy.
Makes sense. They'd seen it all.
Right. They could also take on training roles within CIA's special operations schools, passing on their unparalleled field experience and hard-won knowledge to the next generation of agents. And, chillingly, they would be available for on-call deployment for high-priority black operations under contract, highlighting that their service, even in retirement, was far from over.
On-call deployment, even after everything.
It offered the agency plausible deniability while still having their expertise on tap. This civilian status would afford the agency plausible deniability for their continued involvement, meaning if they were ever deployed or their identities uncovered, the U.S. government could deny any official ties, while still retaining access to their invaluable expertise. It's a pragmatic solution that acknowledges their unique contributions while navigating the complexities of their injuries and the constant need for deniability in such sensitive operations.
So the paperwork goes through, formalizing this unprecedented arrangement. What were the final implementation steps for their retirement and this new haunting phase of their service?
The implementation plan included issuing retirement papers and severance benefits, along with lifetime medical coverage under CIA's Critical Assets Health Program, a crucial provision given their extensive and ongoing injuries.
Lifetime medical, they earned that.
Absolutely. A recognition of the ultimate price they paid. The award board was to convene by November 5, 1956, to finalize commendation packages, and the civilian contractor reserve roster would be updated with detailed profiles and projected availability dates for the brothers. This entire memorandum was approved by M. Wells, Director of the Office of Special Operations, and C. Alden Prescott, Deputy Director, Personnel and Awards, underscoring the profound significance of their service and this truly unprecedented retirement arrangement.
And so, we bring this deep dive into the Coffin brothers to a close. We've traced their incredible, often horrifying journey from their initial infiltration of Hong Kong through the discovery of Project Fantasy's monstrous new form, to the final devastating assault that brought the project down, albeit at an unimaginable personal cost.
The final documents reveal their formal medical retirement from active duty, a necessary step given the catastrophic injuries they sustained. Yet, the story doesn't end with a quiet fade into civilian life. The agency's commendations for their exemplary valor and sacrifice of personal well-being for national security are profound, but they also highlight the permanent physical incapacitation that became their new reality.
What's truly fascinating is their placement on the Civilian Contractor Reserve roster with Special Access Program, SAP-level Black Vault clearances. This isn't just a pension, it's a profound recognition that even shattered, rebuilt, and scarred, they remain invaluable assets. They are retired, yes, but still on call, still tethered to the shadow world they served.
This raises an important question for you, our listener. For operatives like the Coffin brothers, whose very bodies and minds have been rebuilt and rewired by the intelligence machine, is there ever truly an end to their history? Are they truly free, Or are they forever bound by the secrets they hold, the technologies embedded within them, and the unseen need to know that might call them back to duty at any moment?
It leaves you to wonder what life looks like for men who have literally become living archives of Cold War horrors, forever marked by the ultimate price of their service. Could there ever be peace for those who have sacrificed so much?
There's always more beneath the surface, always another layer to uncover.
Keep digging, keep questioning.